It is finally time for the last Platinum Trophy of the Fallout series. As you all know, I first speedran Fallout 4's Next Gen Platinum, then I took on the challenge that was Fallout Shelter, next I went for Fallout 76's Tedious Platinum, and after, of course, returned to where it all started, on Fallout 3. And now, I saved the best for last, Fallout New Vegas. From the main story to the DLC, Fallout New Vegas is truly a classic and most Fallout fans' favorite game of the series. I can also say that it's one of my favorites as well. I remember first really diving into the game on PC in 2020. I enjoyed it so much that it was one of the first games that I had actually decided to go for the 100% on PC. And after a couple of weeks, I got all 75 achievements. So today, it's time to return to the PS3 and put a close on the Fallout series and its base game trophies with the final game that I have left, Fallout New Vegas. So, sit back, relax, and without further ado, let's get into it. Unlike every other Fallout game, New Vegas' main protagonist is not actually a Vault Dweller, but instead a courier who was tasked with delivering a platinum chip. The game starts with a cutscene showing that while on this delivery, the courier is confronted by Benny, a mobster and member of the Mojave Boot Raiders gang. However, this confrontation is not personal, as Benny just wanted to take the courier's platinum chip. This leads to Benny shooting the courier in the head and burying her, and taking the chip for himself. After the cutscene ends, the game begins with me being awoken by a doctor named Doc Mitchell. After telling him my name, he informs me that I was shot in the head and now in a town called Goodsprings. After creating my character and picking my stats, Doc Mitchell gives me 2 exams. The first being a correlation exam where I have to say the first word that comes to my brain after he gives me a word, and the second being one of those Rorschach exams where I have to interpret the meaning of an ink blob. These tests would ultimately help the game pick which skills and traits would best fit me. After picking my skills and traits, it was time for me to be on my way. But before I could leave, Doc Mitchell gave me a Pip-Boy and Vault suit that belonged to his wife, who was a former Vault Dweller. And after exiting Doc Mitchell's house, I got my first trophy. There we go, ain't that a kick in the head? The very first trophy you get for just completing that beginning section of the game. I'm excited to keep on going. Great game. Before leaving town and trying to find Benny to get my get back, Doc Mitchell recommended that I talk to a woman named Sunny Smiles at the local saloon. On my way over, I ran into a Securitron named Victor, who actually was the person who saved my life. Here, I learned that Victor saw the encounter between me and Benny, and was able to dig me out of the dirt after I was shot, and bring me to Doc Mitchell before I could die. After meeting Sunny in the saloon, she took me out back where I learned how to shoot. This portion of the playthrough was the tutorial, where the game teaches you the controls and mechanics and whatnot. After shooting a few models, we walked over to the opposite side of town, where we shot some geckos, and after killing some geckos, Sunny sent me to find some plants so that I would be able to craft some healing items. While I was looking for the last ingredient, I found a snow globe, which is the equivalent to that of a bobblehead in the other Fallout games. I would need to find the remaining 6 in order to get a trophy later. After getting back to Sunny with the ingredients, I made healing powder, and the tutorial was complete. Next, Sunny recommended me to go back to the saloon to meet a bartender named Trudy. Upon my arrival back at the saloon, I saw Trudy in the middle of an argument with a man named Joe Cobb. After talking to Trudy, I learned that Joe Cobb is a part of a gang of escaped convicts called the Powder Gangers, who have been giving the town trouble for a while. The reason for the Powder Gangers' anger toward the town was because they were after a man named Ringo, who was hiding out in Goodsprings. After finding out Ringo's location, I made my way to the old gas station, where he was held up. After nearly shooting me when I entered, Ringo made up to me by teaching me the great game of Caravan. In short, Caravan is a card game where 2 players build 3 opposing piles of numbered cars called caravans and try to outbid their opponent. The goal is to have the highest value caravan without going under 21 or over 26, and after winning 3 times, I got the trophy, Know When to Fold Them. Yeah. There we go. Give me that. Give me that. See ya. That should be the trophy.
What is it?
Know when to fold them. Eventually I would need to win 27 more games in order to get another trophy, but that's for later. After talking to Ringo about the Powder Gangers, he wanted me to talk to the townsfolk about joining Ringo and I and taking them down once and for all. So, after talking to Sonny, Trudy, Easy Pete, Chet, and Doc Mitchell, Goodsprings was ready to take on Joe Cobb and his gang. This was a pretty easy fight, and me and the rest of the townsfolk took out the Powder Gangers with ease. Now, it was time to continue on with my journey in tracking down Benny. The first stop on my journey was at a town called Primm. I won't go into too much detail on what I did here, as it wasn't really important to the main story or any trophies, but essentially the town was overtaken by powder gangers from the nearby prison, so after taking everyone out, I saved the town's deputy, and then recruit someone to be the town's new sheriff. At Primm is actually where I first encountered one of the main factions called the New California Republic, or NCR for short. They were essentially the military in the game, as they wanted to stop all crime and implement new law in the Mojave Wasteland. After helping out Primm and learning that Benny went to a place called Novac, I made my way to the next nearest city, called Nipton. Here is where I met the NCR's main opposition, called the Legion. The Legion are essentially an army similar to that of an army from the Roman Empire, who enslave everyone and pillage every town that they come across. After seeing their atrocities firsthand, and having a conversation with one of their members, I carried on to Novac. Novac would actually end up being an important place for both missions and trophies. The first thing I did once I got there was head up to the Big Dinosaur, where I met a guard named Manny Vargas. Manny told me that Benny had traveled through Novac after he shot me. However, that's as much detail as Manny would go into, as he would not help me unless I helped him. So, he let me know that the city had been having ghoul problems at a nearby rocket test site. So, he sent me on my way to clear the ghouls from the area. But before completing any missions, I needed some help, so I decided to try and recruit my first companion. During the night, a man named Boone guards Novac from the top of the dinosaur. After talking to him, I learned that his wife had been sold to the Legion by someone in the town, and then ultimately killed. So, in order to be able to recruit Boone, I needed to find out who actually sold his wife. Since I had played the game before, I knew exactly where to find the evidence, so I went to the front desk of the motel, opened a safe, and found the bill of sale. It turns out that an old woman who worked as the receptionist was the person who actually sold Boone's wife. So, at night, I told her to meet me in front of the dinosaur, where Boone then assassinated her. After this, I recruited Boone and got the trophy, Old Buddy, Old Pal, for recruiting a companion. There we go. Old Buddy, Old Pal. Next, I started the quest Manny gave me, called Come Fly With Me. Like I mentioned earlier, this quest took me to an old rocket test site where ghouls had reportedly been holding up. After killing a few ghouls, I made my way to the upper section of the test site, where I met a scientist named Chris, who claimed to be a ghoul, when obviously he wasn't. He told me to go upstairs to meet someone named Jason. It turns out that Jason was the leader of the Bright Brotherhood, a group of ghouls who wanted to complete something called the Great Journey. Turns out that this Great Journey was them wanting to take control of one of the test rocket ships and fly into space, but they were stuck upstairs because there were demons in the basement. So, my next task was to clear these demons from the basement. Here is where I encountered a new species of super mutant called Nightkin. They are purple super mutants who are addicted to stealth boys, but even though they were pretty strong, I was able to kill them and ensure that the basement was clear. After, I returned back to Jason Bright, and he and the rest of the scientists made their way to the test site. Now, before the rockets could launch, a few components were required. First, I needed to collect thrust control modules, and then igniting agent. So, I traveled to a garage near Novac where an old lady and her dogs resided. The old lady sold me the thrust modules, and I got the lighting agent off the body of a dead scavenger near an irradiated area. After returning to Chris with both of the items, Jason and his followers could finally complete the Great Journey. I love the song, or the music too. You got this, guys. Oh no. Nice. Come fly with me. This mission was pretty hilarious and was the epitome of a goofy Fallout mission. Now, I could return to Manny, who told me that Benny said that he was traveling to a place called Boulder City. But before going after him, I continued with some side missions, the next being that lucky old sun. This mission started after I arrived to Helios 1, a power plant controlling the power across the Mojave Wasteland. After talking to the NCR guards outside, I was let in. Now it was time to restart the power and decide where to output it, but first I had to figure out how to actually do this. After entering the plant, I found two scientists who were working on how to get the power back up. So, after talking to them, I got both of their keycards so that I could go outside and access two terminals and reset the connection. After doing this, I could go back into the building where I could then output the power. So, after fighting some robots, I got to the control room where I decided to output the power to the full region so that everyone could have access to it. After watching the power start back up, I returned to the scientist and got the trophy. There we go. That lucky old sun. Next, I traveled to the eastern end of the map to an NCR camp called Forlorn Hope, where I then started the next side quest called Return to Sender. This quest started after I talked to Tech Sergeant Reyes in the camp's command center. Here, she told me that all nearby ranger stations needed to be upgraded, as the NCR suspected that the Legion were spying on the NCR's radio transmissions. So, I traveled all across the wasteland, where I gave an upgrade code to each of the different ranger stations. After returning to Reyes, she told me that strange reports such as mutant legionary attacks and trained Deathclaw attacks had occurred at each of the stations. After returning back to each station, I learned that these reports were false and that someone had sent in fake reports. So, I traveled to Camp Golf, the NCR's main base of operations, to talk to the chief of the NCR. Just before making it there, I got the trophy New Kid for reaching level 10. New Kid, I'm guessing that's for leveling up to 10? After talking to Chief Hanlon about these reports, he tells me that he was actually the one making up these reports, as he thought that it'd be best to evacuate the Mojave instead of waiting around to die at the hands of the Legion. After saying that I was going to turn him in, he kicked me out of the office, gave a speech over the intercom, and ended his own life. After he did this, I got the trophy Return to Sender. Let me in. No! No! He killed himself. Return to the sender. While in the process of completing this side quest, I continued with the main quest, where I made it to Boulder City, where Benny had supposedly passed through after shooting me. Here, there was a standoff between the Great Khans, another gang and faction in the game, and the NCR. After saving some hostages and killing the Khan's leader, I found information that Benny had traveled to the Strip. Here, I got a trophy for completing the quest. They went that way. Now that essentially all the remaining side quests were in the Strip, I decided to find the final 6 snow globes. In the process, I discovered my 50th location and got a trophy. There we go, Walker of the Mojave. After collecting a few more snow globes out in the wasteland, I finally entered the Vegas Strip. However, if I wanted to get to the Tops Casino to confront Benny, I needed to find a way past the Securitrons guarding the gate. So, I headed to a nearby shop and bought a counterfeit passport to get past the guards. After this, I headed into the Tops Casino, but not to confront Benny, but to start the next side quest called Talent Pool. This quest began after entering the Aces Theater and meeting a man named Tommy Torini. Here I learned that Tommy is somewhat of a promoter and that there weren't many acts at the Aces Theater. After learning this, I told him that I would find some acts in the wasteland. After finding a couple acts, I returned and received the trophy.
Bring them in.
There we go. Talent pool. Next, I headed to Nellis Air Force Base at the top of the map to find the next snow globe. However, it wasn't as simple as just going to the base and collecting the snow globe. Instead, Nellis was actually occupied by a faction called the Boomers, who would shoot rockets and artillery at anyone who would get close. So, after meeting a man named George outside the base and paying him 300 caps to give me a guide, and then doubling down that I would actually return alive, I attempted to get to the base without being blown to pieces. This is tricky, but I've done it a lot, so here we go. Did it. Barely. Now that I had made it to the gates, I could finally collect the second to last snow globe, and I decided to hold off on the boomers missions for a bit. Here we go. One more. Now all I needed was the final snow globe. But unfortunately, bad news. I didn't mention this in the intro, but Fallout New Vegas on the PS3 is not an enjoyable experience, and it does not perform well at all. As you can see, the graphics are not great at all, and at points throughout the playthrough, all of a sudden the game would get really choppy, buildings and textures wouldn't render, or the game would just flat out crash. So, unfortunately, just before getting the final snow globe, my game crashed and I needed to restart. Every time I would restart, my Elgato would glitch out and not show gameplay. Unfortunately, I did not realize this at the time, and I got the snow globe while the gameplay was glitched out, so I wasn't able to capture the actual trophy pop. But don't fear, I did get the trophy Globetrotter for finding all 7 bobbleheads. Here you can see my reaction when I realized the gameplay was glitched. Thankfully, this would be the one and only time that this would happen. Next, I started another side quest in the strip called GI Blues. This quest introduced me to a group called the Kings, who ran the area of the strip called Freeside. After entering a place called the King's School of Interpretation, I met the leader of the Kings named the King. In order to gain the King's respect, I first had to do a couple tasks for him. The first being investigating a quote-unquote bodyguard who would take travelers around Freeside and then make them pay extra after he quote-unquote saved their lives. It turns out that the instances where he would save these people's lives would be scripted so that the attackers were all actors and the whole thing was a scheme. After finding this out, I told the King that the bodyguard was not trustworthy. After this, he assigned me another task. This one had to do with the faction called the Followers of the Apocalypse. Their base of operations was at the Old Mormon Fort in Freeside. Here, the King wanted me to investigate reports that the NCR was in Freeside. After talking to the top doctor at the fort, she let me know that the NCR had been handing out food only to the citizens of the NCR and no one else. After learning this, I went back to the King. Just when I was about to inform the King's right-hand man named Pacer stopped me and told me not to tell him. However, I didn't listen and told the King anyway. Hereafter, the King was informed that there was a shootout between the Kings and the NCR. After going to the shootout and meeting the NCR leader, I created a ceasefire, and everything was all good. After returning to the King, the quest was over, and I got the trophy GI Blues. GI Blues. Since I had made a bunch of progress and continuously picked up items along my travels, I figured I had enough to craft, so I went to a workbench, crafted 20 items, and got the trophy Crafty. Now it was time for the boomer missions. Since I had made it past the barrage of missiles previously, I had already introduced myself to the leader of the boomers. Now all I needed to do was gain their trust. This side mission was definitely the longest as it took many steps in order to be completed, but first thing I did was listen to a child give a speech on the history of the boomers. No lie, this was literally one of the longest speeches I have ever heard. It seemed like the kid would never stop talking, but after he was done, the first task was complete. Next, I had to take care of an ant infestation in a bunker at the base. After killing all the ants, another task was complete. Next, I needed to help repair the solar panels at the base, so I headed back to Helios 1 to salvage some of the panels, and after I returned, I fixed all the panels at the base and completed that task. Next, I talked to a boomer named Jack, who said he had been watching a girl at the Crimson Caravan. He said that he wanted me to go there and ask if she wanted to meet Jack. After getting to the Crimson Caravan, I talked to her and she said she felt the same way about him, and that she wanted to go to Nellis. Now I needed to grant her permission, so I headed back to the leader of the boomers where I got permission for her. After returning to her and giving her a boomer outfit, she was reunited with Jack. The last task required me to help the medic at the base heal all the hurt patients. After doing this, all the tasks around the base had been completed. Now, the last thing I needed to do in order to gain the boomers' respect and get the trophy was help the boomers fulfill their dream of lifting the lady from the water. This lady was actually an old bomber plane that had crashed in a nearby lake. The boomers now wanted me to detonate some airbags below the wings of the crashed plane so that it would raise to the surface, and then the robots could disassemble and then repair it at the base. After getting to the plane and detonating the airbags, I returned and got the trophy for completing the side quest. There we go, another side mission down. Next, I decided to go for the trophy called You Run Bartertown, which required me to sell 10,000 caps worth of goods, so I went to the Gunrunner store, made a save, and sold everything I had to get the trophy. There we go, I already got it. You Run Bartertown. After, I decided to recruit all the companions. Each of the companions had their own little backstory, but none really being that instrumental to the story nor the achievement, so I'll briefly talk about everyone I had to recruit. Since I had already recruited Boone, I next went for a robot named Eddie, who was broken down at Prim. After getting my repair and science skills high enough, I could fix him and he could then become my companion. Next was Rex. Rex was actually the king's personal dog, but since Rex was going through some health issues, the king allowed me to take him to a doctor who then fixed him. After that, Rex was then my companion. Next was Lily, an old mutant who lived at a mutant sanctuary called Jacobstown. After was Raoul, a ghoul being held by super mutants at a radio station called Black Mountain. Then Veronica, who was a lone traveler at the 188 trading post. She would be important much later in the playthrough. After was Cass, who helped run a caravan group called Cassidy Caravan. And finally, Arcade Gannon, who was a part of the followers at the Old Mormon Fort. After recruiting everyone, I got the trophy. Wait for it, the whole gang's here. I was gonna say, I was waiting for it. This game is so slow. Now that I had got most all side quests out of the way, it was time to do the grindiest trophies in the game, and probably the reason why the game is rated a 5 out of 10 on PSN profiles, and why it takes an average of 80 hours to complete. The first thing I grinded out was a trophy I alluded to earlier called Caravan Master, which required me to win 30 games of Caravan. So I met back up with Ringo, the man who introduced me to the game, and proceeded to take all of his money after I beat him 27 more times. Yes! 10 more! 3 more! 1 more! There we go. 30. Caravan Master. I actually like Caravan. Caravan's fun, so that wasn't bad. That was cool. I got a lot of money too, so. Next, I went for some of the more annoying trophies in the game, all of which had to do with causing 10,000 damage, or heal 10,000 points of damage. In Fallout New Vegas, there are 5 trophies that have to do with causing damage. They all require you to do 10,000 damage with explosives, melee weapons, unarmed weapons, energy weapons, and guns. So, for the next 8 hours or so, I grinded out the damage trophies. I got most of my damage from going to a battle arena called the Thorn, where I could fight unlimited amounts of rad scorpions, and also get caps for doing so. But after a while, this would get boring, so I went out into the wasteland where I would kill enemy NPCs instead. Here, I got all the damage trophies except for guns, as I knew I'd be using them a lot through the end of my playthroughs, so I held off on that. How'd I miss? Ah! Love the bomb. Was that for 10,000 damage? I do it. I did it. Get me out of here. Actually, no, I need to say. There we go. New Vegas Samurai. There we go. I think that's 10,000. There we go. Old time brawler. Did I do it? Yes, 10,000. That one was kind of the hardest, I'm not gonna lie. Blast Mastery. After damage, it was time for the healing trophies. Now I had to heal 10,000 points worth of damage with food and heal 10,000 points worth of damage from Stimpaks. Since I had been using Stimpaks throughout my playthrough, I was pretty close and got the trophy pretty easily. There we go. Simply amazing. After, it was time for food, which took quite a while. This was because I first had to find a crazy abundance of food, and then find a place to harm myself without dying. So, again, after doing this for the next couple of hours, I finally got the trophy. Here we go. Desert Survivalist. Okay, that one was pretty annoying. I don't remember it being that annoying, but definitely was. While going for all these trophies, I leveled up to level 20 and repaired 30 items, both of which netted me trophies. Alright, now this should get me the trophy here. There we go. Jury Rigger. Up and Comer. Next, and like every other Fallout game, I hacked terminals and picked locks. After doing 25 of each, I got both trophies. Alright, this should be the last one. There we go, 25. No Tumbler Fumbler. Last one here. There we go. The final one. Hack the Mojave. That one's kind of easier. I mean, it's only 25, so not bad at all. Next, I went for the final side quest called The Legend of the Star. This quest began after talking to an electronic puppet named Festus at the Sunset Sarsaparilla headquarters. He told me that if I brought back 50 bottle caps, I would then get a prize. After scouring the wasteland for a couple of hours, I got 50 bottle caps and returned to Festus. Here, he told me that my prize was actually learning about the origins of the Sunset Sarsaparilla Company, and then the mission subsequently failed. Thankfully, this was a scripted event, and I confronted him about a real prize, to which he then told me that it was in the back of the factory. After finding a dead guy and picking up his holotape, the mission ended, and I got the trophy. There we go, The Legend of the Star. After this, I still needed to discover 125 locations in the wasteland, so I went for a walk until I discovered the 125th location and got the trophy. Wait for it. There we go, Master of the Mojave. Next, I went for Mod Machine, which required me to install 20 weapon mods. Like I did previously, I sold most of my items, bought mods, and attached them. After this, I got the trophy. Mod Machine. Now, for the last grindy trophy, I had to pick 50 pockets. In Fallout New Vegas, there is a well-known exploit where if you travel to Vault 21 in the Vegas Strip, there was a woman named Sarah, who, if you pickpocket her gum, it stays in there no matter what. So for the next couple of minutes, I picked her pocket 50 times to get the trophy. Can I get 4? Yes! 50. And Artful Pocketer. Now, after all of this, it was finally time to start the main quest line. Once I got to the strip, I met Victor again, who told me that the top guy in New Vegas, Mr. House, wanted to speak to me in the Lucky 38 casino. After meeting House, I learned that he was a program that controlled all of the Securitrons in the city. His task for me was to recover the platinum chip and return it to him. So, now it was time to finally confront Benny at the Tops Casino. Here, I made a bunch of different saves as I would need to complete the game 4 different times in order to get the platinum. So, after I entered, I walked over to Benny, where instead of confronting him, I decided to use my Black Widow perk to convince him that I actually wanted to sleep with him. While doing this, I could kill him in his sleep, making this entire process much easier. This is also the reason I picked a woman as my character, as only the Black Widow perk allowed me to do this. House. So after sleeping with him and killing him, I grabbed the platinum chip, and the mission ended, and I got the trophy. There we go. Ring-a-ding-ding. For this first playthrough, I decided to go with Caesar's Legion, as it would take the longest to complete. After leaving the tops, I was confronted by the man I met earlier in Nipton. He told me that now I had the Mark of Caesar, and that all my crimes against the Legion had been forgiven, and that Caesar wanted to meet with me. So, next I traveled to Cottonwood Cove, where I took a boat to Caesar's fort. Here, all of my weapons were taken from me, and I was told to go to Caesar's tent. After arriving to the tent, Caesar told me that he needed me to do something for him with the platinum chip. At Caesar's fort, there was an old bunker with a bunch of Securitrons, and at Caesar's request, he wanted me to blow up the fort. So, that's what I did. After returning, Caesar gave me the next quest, which was to kill Mr. House. So, I traveled back to the Lucky 38, where I found the real Mr. House, a withered old man whose brain was being controlled in a cybergenetic chamber. After opening the chamber, I killed him and his Securitrons. After returning, I got my next task from Caesar, which was to form an alliance between them and the Boomers. Since I had done the Boomers quest, all I had to do was talk to Pearl, who gladly accepted their request. Next, I had to form an alliance between the Legion and the White Gloves Casino. This wasn't too hard, as Caesar told me that the White Gloves had been cannibals in the past. So, after using that against them, I was able to create an alliance. While doing this, I got the trophy Outstanding Orator for completing 50 speech checks. There we go, that's 50.
Your timing couldn't be more atrocious. Just make it quick, alright?
Outstanding Orator. Next, I had to find and destroy the Brotherhood of Steel. Unlike the other Fallout games, the Brotherhood plays a minimal role in this game. Remember how I said that Veronica would be really important down the line? Well, here was her time. Since Veronica was a part of the Brotherhood of Steel, she could get me into the bunker quite easily. From here, I shot my way to the control room, where I found 3 keycards, which would generate a self-destruct card that I could then use to blow up the bunker. So, after blowing up the bunker, I returned to Caesar. During this meeting, Caesar was clearly not doing well, and since my medical skills were high enough, I could do some speech checks to diagnose him. Now, I had to find a way to help Caesar and his headaches. One way was by enslaving my companion Ganon, who was a doctor. Since I was doing the Legion playthrough, my karma was already bad enough, and this was the easiest option. After bringing Ganon to the fort and enslaving him, Caesar was treated, and he gave me my next task, which was to assassinate the president of the NCR while he was giving a speech at Hoover Dam. While there were many ways to do this, the easiest way I found was to reprogram the air defense cannon to shoot down anything flying by. So, after doing this, once the president's vertibird flew by, it was shot down instantly, and I was given the trophy Arizona Killer.
Arizona Killer.
After returning to Caesar, all of his tasks were complete, and I got the trophy Render unto Caesar.
In the past, the NCR has
Another
relied
one.
upon attrition.
Now it was time for the Battle of Hoover Dam. Just before attacking the NCR at the dam, Caesar sent me to speak to his greatest warrior, named Legate Lanius. And I can't lie, this dude is one of the most badass characters in all of the Fallout series. I mean, just look at him. Glazing aside, after speaking with him, it was time to attack. So, after killing NCR troops on top of the dam, I made my way inside, where I confronted General Oliver. Since my speech was 100, I convinced him to stand down and leave. I remember doing this boss battle on PC, and it was not fun, so I decided that using speech was the best bet. After I spoke to Legate again, and he notified me that we had won the battle, here, the game ended, and I got the final Caesar trophy.
Vendi, VC.
Now, I reloaded a save, and went with the NCR ending next. Like the Legion playthrough, I slept with and killed Benny, got the chip, and this time went to the NCR embassy in the Strip. Here, I met with Ambassador Crocker. Here, he gave me 2 tasks. The first was to meet with the Boomers and get them on the side of the NCR, then deal with the King and Freeside. Similar to what I did earlier, I had to go to the King and make a truce between the King and the citizens of the NCR. After doing this, my presence was requested by Colonel Moore at Hoover Dam. Similar to the Legion quests, my first task was to make the NCR presence known on the Strip. So, I traveled to the Gamora Casino, where I learned that the Omertas were conspiring against the NCR. So, after finding the family and blackmailing a few of the members, I confronted and killed both of the bosses, and the task was complete. Next, I had to kill Mr. House and destroy the Brotherhood of Steel. So, after doing exactly what I did for the Legion, I returned to Moore at the dam. Now the fifth and final task was to protect the president instead of killing him like I did for the Legion. After searching for some clues of an intruder, I found blood in a closet and an unrecognized ID in the employee terminal. After the president's vertibird landed, I went to the helipad where I saw an engineer plant a bomb. After disarming, I went to a sniper tower where a fellow NCR trooper and I took out an undercover Legion agent. From the tower, the same engineer that I noticed earlier tried to shake the president on stage. Unfortunately, I didn't have a sniper, so I had to attempt to hit the assassin from the tower. My aim was not good enough, but thankfully the guards did their job on the ground and saved the president from the assassins. After the president escaped safely, I got the trophy. You'll know when it happens.
Again, you'll know when it happens. Nice.
After I returned to Moore, I got the trophy for the Republic for completing her tasks.
For the Republic.
Now it was time for the Battle of Hoover Dam once again, this time on the side of the NCR. So, after shooting my way through the Legion soldiers on top of the dam and getting some assistance from the boomers, I made my way to the fort where I confronted Legate. While I could have convinced him to leave peacefully, I thought that it would make for a boring playthrough, so I decided that I wanted all of the smoke.
Enough words then. Let our strength settle this.
Oh, this actually does crazy damage. Come on. Couple more. One more. Boom.
After defeating him, I made my way to the exit, where I was congratulated by Oliver. After this, I got the trophy, and the cutscene rolled.
You and the dam. I'm impressed to say the least, and that's
There we go,
no
the
easy
final
thing. Future.
NCR
The administration sends its thanks
trophy.
for what it's worth.
Now it's time for the third playthrough. This time, I worked with Mr. House. After returning the chip to Mr. House, after killing Benny, he told me that I should go meet Caesar, and instead of blowing up the bunker with the Securitrons, I should instead reprogram them so that they could come to my aid during the Battle of Hoover Dam. So, after doing that, I returned to Mr. House, where he next wanted me to ally with the Boomers. Like the Legion and the NCR, this was easy, as all I had to do was talk to Pearl. After I returned, my next task was to ally with the Omertas, but like I did with the NCR, I decided to kill the bosses instead. Now, it was time to blow up the Brotherhood of Steel again, so thanks to Veronica, I was able to get in and out and blow up the bunker easily without a fight. Next, House informed me about the president's speech and assassination attempt. Since he wanted me to favor the NCR, I had to protect the president. So, I did the same thing as before, and saved him from the Legion assassins. Unlike the last two endings, before the Battle of Hoover Dam, I had to actually install an override module at the El Dorado substation, as this would help to power all the Securitrons at the fort's bunker. After doing this, it was time once again for the battle. But first, I got the trophy, The House Always Wins.
That house always wins.
Before getting to the fort, I had to get House into the dam system and then activate the power. After this, like before, I thought it'd be more entertaining to fight Legate, so after defeating him, I was confronted by Oliver, and since my speech wasn't high enough, I actually had to kill him too, so after this, I spoke to Mr. House, and Vegas was finally his.
This is where it all begins.
Well said. Well said. Wait for it.
And so the courier who had cheated death in the cemetery
All
outside
or
Good
nothing.
Springs.
After this, all I had to do in terms of the story was beat the game on hardcore and do it with the wildcard option. But before starting a new character, I had a few loose ends to clean up, the first being getting to 10,000 damage with guns. Since I had to keep reloading saves to complete each ending, I never had enough gun damage, so for the next hour or so, I went around the wasteland killing creatures on missions until I finally got to 10k.
There we go. 10,000 damage, which should give me the trophy. There it is. Lead dealer. I don't know why that one took so long to get. I think I just used non-guns. I used a lot of melee weapons, so.
Now, the last thing I had to do was get to level 30. Thankfully, it's very easy to level up in Fallout New Vegas, so for the next hour, I spammed a 50 XP speech check over and over until I got the remaining 6 levels, and then got the trophy.
There it is. Level 30. Finally. Here we go. Wait for it. There it is, the boss. I was getting a little nervous there. It wasn't popping, but there it is.
Now, it's finally time to start the hardcore playthrough. Hardcore is different from non-hardcore in that you now need to watch your sleep, thirst, and hunger. So, while making my character, I strategically planned for the trophies I had left, all of which required a lot of luck. So, I made sure my charisma and luck were the highest before leaving Goodsprings. Here, I could also do an XP exploit to get my speech to 100 before leaving. After completing the tutorial, instead of making my way south and then north up to Vegas, I decided to cut through the hills by Black Mountain. Avoiding all the Deathclaws and super mutants on the way, I drastically cut down my time and made it to Vegas in only a couple of minutes. After getting there, I bought naughty nightwear from a store and collected a few snow globes to sell for caps. Now, before doing the story, all I needed was to get the casino and gambling trophies out of the way. First thing I did was play 10 spins of slots.
One armed bandit. I'm not playing slots again, it's not worth it.
Then 10 spins of roulette.
I think that was 10. Little wheel. I'm also done with this. There's no point.
And then 10 hands of blackjack.
I think that was 10. Wait for it. There it is. Double down.
After getting these trophies, the only casino trophy that remained was to get kicked out of each casino, which essentially entailed that I needed to win thousands of caps at each casino. This was actually extremely easy with 10 plus luck, especially on blackjack, as I could double down and win almost every time. So, after 45 minutes or so, I won 10,000 caps at the tops.
That means for us.
I just got kicked out. Nice.
15k at the Ultra Lux.
This simply will not do. You must leave immediately.
Fine.
And 9k at the Gamora, and then got the trophy, the courier who broke the bank.
Game. That should be the trophy here.
Okay, that's that. No more games for you. Go rob the
The
tops.
courier
You're
who
done
broke the bank. That was actually a lot easier than I remember.
Now, I had enough caps to buy a bunch of weapons, stim packs, water, and food to survive the endgame. Now, it was time to start the wild card and the Yes Man ending. I saved this one for last as it was by far the shortest ending, and since I was on hardcore, it just made sense. After killing Benny, I searched for clues around his penthouse. Here, I found a secret room where he had a personal Securitron named Yes Man. After learning of Benny and Yes Man's plans to take over Vegas, it was time to do what they planned to do. First things first was to kill Mr. House.
Oh, I missed. 360 no scope. How do I keep on missing? 360 no scope.
After doing this, Yes Man could now move into the Lucky 38 system. Next, Yes Man recommended that I get to know all the tribes in New Vegas. So, after meeting with every single faction, I returned to Yes Man, where I said that they could all be left alone. Next, I traveled to Caesar's Fort, where I reprogrammed all of the Securitrons in the bunker. After, Yes Man let me know about the president's potential assassination, but with Yes Man, I didn't actually need to worry about it, and instead skipped the mission entirely. Like the Mr. House ending, before the battle, I had to go to the El Dorado substation to improve Yes Man's broadcasting range. After returning, I got the trophy Wildcard.
Just like you did with
Wildcard.
38.
Now, for the Battle of Hoover Dam, I decided to do the same thing I did with Mr. House, play along as if I was on the NCR side until I got to the fort, where I confronted Legate. So, after tapping Yes Man into the dam system and turning on the power, I confronted Legate, but this time told him to leave as my weapons weren't nearly as good as my previous playthrough. I did the same for Oliver. After convincing both of them to leave peacefully, I talked to Yes Man and received the final 3 trophies of the playthrough.
We accomplished a lot together. It was fun. Take care.
Thank you.
cheated death in the cemetery outside Good
No
Springs.
gods, no
Cheated
masters,
death
and
once again never changed.
hardcore,
The courier with the
and
aid
the
of Yes
platinum
Man
trophy.
drove
That very platinum trophy was the final platinum trophy and the final trophy out of all the base game trophies from each of the Fallout games in the series. Fallout New Vegas is up there as one of my favorite games of all time, so I was glad to go back and platinum it on the PS3. However, I do not actually recommend playing this game on the PS3 as it crashed so many times. So after I get the DLC trophies, I don't really plan on coming back to the game on console. However, that doesn't take away from the storytelling and gameplay that New Vegas presents. It's truly one of a kind and a game that I recommend playing if you haven't. Like always, thanks for all the love on the Fallout Platinum series, and if you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Don't worry, Fallout DLC videos coming very soon. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.